Welcome on in, Space Marine lovers as well as enjoyers. This is Screws and Studs, and once again, JoyToy has brought two video game assets from your screen back into real life. They have done this not once, but twice with this special collector's edition of Gadriel as well as Chiron. Now, this beefier rendition is supposed to be bigger and better than the first release. So in this review video, we shall see if JoyToy put their money where their mouth is by giving us two supposedly more enhanced action figures to take a look at.
Alright, the helmeted version of Gadriel has some really nice shading that is going on with it, especially around the edges of the armor panels. The presence of the silver highlighting on the edges of the helmet is supposed to denote wear and tear, and I believe that JoyToy was successful in conveying that aspect. These unlit lenses are a very dark, lifeless green, but when you remove the top of the helmet, it reveals an area for an LED light, which makes the lenses blaze into life. And the interesting thing about these LEDs is that it's got a pulsing on and off kind of effect. The bareheaded version of Gadriel is rather interesting looking because you can see that there's a ton of detail on his face with the scars that run deep. However, some of these scars look like weird bulging veins. Anyway, the details such as the eyes, mouth, as well as the eyebrows are very pronounced by standing out against the paler color of the face. So the left pauldron contains the regular sergeant badging. I find it odd that the back of the pauldron has a pristine look to it, while the front of it has blood specks all over the place. The unevenness of the application of blood is especially evident in the heraldic shield, in that there should be blood on the shield. The right pauldron has a nicely shaded cord that runs across this area with an equally shaded double aquila. However, this pauldron also suffers the same issue as the left one, where the front is grimy, but the back remains completely untouched, which makes this area weirdly out of balance. The arms look fantastic to me because of the battle scarring that has been given to this area. Now with the chest and torso area, you've got your standard golden wing skull right in the center of Gadriel. Sadly, just like Titus, this action figure has no shading in this area, which sort of does not match up with the battle damage. Speaking again of the blood of slain enemies, strangely there is no blood splatters on the symbol itself, which is curious. Aside from that, you've got some nice texturization in the soft armor areas. So in this waist area, the most prominent thing that you'll see is obviously the tabard or this leather baltea. You've got some nice scars of war on the leather, but it's also nice that these leather strips have been highlighted up. I do also like how these strips of leather have kind of movement associated to it, and the same also goes for the tabard in the back too. Sadly, Gadriel does not have a fancy buckle, but forgoed it for two nicely detailed leather pouches in the front and one in the back too. And of note, these pouches are on ball and socket joints, so you can remove them and then replace them as you see fit. And finally, these side armor panels also bear evidence that Gadriel has been through some quite murderous situations. The legs have the most prominent evidence of mortal skirmishes, especially in the feet area right here. The armor is extremely worn down and has been coated with copious amounts of Xenos blood. I really think that JoyToy nailed the look for sure in this area. Now with the regular backpack, interestingly enough, the vents on the top of it does not have any shading associated with it. I would prefer that this area was a little bit more black to make it more realistic. And then finally, the raised golden Ultramarines U is a bit strange being paired with a flat and screened red sergeant skull. I would have preferred it if both areas were raised or they were both screened. Then you've got your standard Primaris jump pack with really worn in edges. Also with Titus's jump pack, the red engine glow is much too weak in my opinion. I prefer this area to be screaming at the top of your lungs, raging red. Both of the bolt rifle and the bolt pistol comes in your standard gunmetal and black colors. They both really look good as the black is where it should be, and the gunmetal areas look like they belong at home too. I suppose my only gripe is that I wish that there was more shading in the gunmetal areas. I suppose these weapons look a little bit too pristine and does not match the aesthetic of the armor. And finally, as a side note, the magazines can be removed on both weapons. Now the reverse goes for the chainsword, especially with all these blood splatters. This buzzsaw's teeth are very jagged and has a very imposing look to it. The length of the chainsword is kind of crazy in that it is 3/4 of the length of Gadriel's body, and it is quite massive compared to the regular release of these action figures. Aside from that, you've got some more silver weathering, which means that this Xenos bisector has been well used. Alright, with regards to the holsters, there's not really much I can say in that they look, well, fantastic with the edge highlighting. With the jump pack legs, so just like with the regular edition, you can swap out the regular legs with the jump pack legs. This area is as battle worn as the other leg area in the action figure, which is nice because there's some continuity, and you can move these engines around, but you have really got to press them to do it. So the addition of these frag and crack grenades are something new on this collector's edition. There is a ton of dry brushed light silver all over the bodies of these frag and crack grenades. Okay, I'm not going to really bother going over Brother Chiron's accessories because they are exactly the same as Gadriel's. So I'm going to focus on the things that are different on this action figure, starting off with the helmet and head area. It would appear that Chiron has oiled his head because the top of his head is quite shiny. I kind of do like this look a little bit more as it is unique compared to Gadriel's or Titus's generic hair. Then speaking of hair, I think JoyToy did a good job of making his eyebrows and beard look really textured, and the scarring on his face looks realistic too. The helmeted version has the same silver highlights near the ear, as well as the top of the helmet area and finally near the vents. Although it is strange that his helmet does not have the same strong shading as Gadriel's helmet. Just like the other two Marines, you can remove the top of the helmet to reveal LEDs to make the dark red lenses spring to life. The pauldrons suffer from the same issue as a sergeant in that yes, the front of the pauldron has beautiful life matter all over it, but for some odd reason, the back of the pauldron is completely pristine, and the purity seals here on both sides have rejected the guts from them, in that there are no blood splatters at all, which you would think that if this area was highly splattered, that this would also be subject to this same treatment. I know this is being nitpicky, but this sort of ruins the level of immersion on this action figure for me. However, I do like the chains on the right pauldron that run the whole entire length of the area and gives Chiron his one-of-a-kind character. So you will notice that the right arm has punched some Xenos filth, but oddly enough, the left mechanical arm is pristine in that it has been bathing in ivory liquid all this time, while the right arm has been doing all the murdering. Just like with Titus and Gadriel, I really wish that the gold-winged skull would have more depth of flavor. The weathering is super imbalanced in this area and remains a big weakness on all three of these action figures. Now, the waist area seems to have a lot less level of option for customization because there is only one available slot of customization, whereas the other Marines have 3. It's kind of curious as to why JoyToy decided to give Chiron the shaft and said he has these 2 non-removable relics, with one being in the front and the other one being in the back. With the leg area, I'm not going to go into too much detail with regard to it because we've already seen this twice before. Suffice to say, this is the most highly decorated area on the action figure, and the only other difference on Chiron is that he decided to wield the auto bolt rifle to stand against the tide of Xenos filth. The colors are applied in the perfect areas on this enemy of the Emperor Purger, and just like with Gadriel's bolt rifle, this one also suffers the same issue of not enough shading.
Well, overall, I would have to say that these action figures are solid and can be argued perhaps even the best that JoyToy has ever released. The amount of detail that was given to these action figures is unparalleled. However, weirdly enough, there is some lack of attention to detail, especially with the pristine areas, where those pristine areas should be sullied, especially with Chiron's purity seals as well as Gadriel's heraldic shield. You will not notice these issues when you are standing afar and admiring these great action figures, but when you go in close and actually inspect them and nitpick the details, the immersion is broken. Another weird thing again is the lack of occlusion of the jump pack stands. These action figures really need these stands in my opinion, and JoyToy may have failed us a second time in a row by not providing these crucial display pieces for these action figures. However, the things that I'm pointing out to you are just very minor things, and I would still put my badge of approval for you guys to buy these action figures. And where should you be picking up these action figures? Well, click in the link in the description below where you will be brought to David Toys. David Toys has a fantastic user interface where you can go to the search bar and with a click of a button, find the exact Space Marine that you want to pick up for yourself. And before you check out, don't forget to use the code SNS to receive 12% off of your purchase. And with that being said, members of the chapter, please let me know what you thought about these two action figures. Are you thinking about picking them up if you don't have them? So we have 2 more videos that feature Titus and his squad. The next video is going to be the one that I'm going to be comparing the regular edition Titus versus the collector's edition, and then the last video will be the direct comparison of these collector's editions versus the regular editions. So look forward to those 2 videos very soon. And with that being said, thank you for watching, members of the chapter, and I see you all in the next one.